take it easy on yourself because so many dads put so much pressure on themselves to be, whatever in their mind they have set out to be. Taking a step back, being like, you know what, I'm not going to be this guy like overnight. And I think, that approach works so well in different things. And like I said, I love what you said earlier with the baby steps because consistent baby steps will always outperform just one huge effort like once a week.
What are the things that we value? And then how can we create routine and structure around that where he learns that by watching instead of us just saying it. Having a father in the home is a big deal, but it's not just enough to have a father in the home. You got to be a good dad. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Johnny Talks Pod. Today we have on Jake Gilbert. Jake is a husband, father, works in social media content creation as well. So Jake, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I feel honored and blessed, man. I'm excited to chop it up.
Yes, dude, it's gonna be fun. So I wanted to do first happy early Father's Day to you. It's coming up here soon. I
Thank you,
wanted to
man.
do a little appreciate it, a little Father's Day episode for the dads. I'm just super passionate about fatherhood and dads and equipping men with the resources and the conversations to be able to just go out there and be the best dads that we can be. And I want to get into fatherhood and what that means to you and what you've learned. But I did notice that recently you started focusing more on posting more of your life content,
Mhm.
whether that be, just life in general, fitness, fatherhood, family life. Kind of tell me about why you started doing that and what you found to be interesting in it so far.
So for me, it was, I guess, to start at the beginning. It's like one of those things, and I think you can relate to it with Cass and everything. But like McCall has been posting, her life on and off for, man, I couldn't even tell you how long. And so it's always been something that was in like, the back of her pocket. You're like, hey, yeah, look, I'll keep posting. If something happens, and something happens. But after I graduated from Georgia, I did several just like odd jobs, whether that was like medical device sales for a year. And then I started like a small lawn servicing company last year that I did. I've done real estate. I've covered a lot of bases, man. So it was one of those things where I was like, what am I most passionate about? Because every time that I did one of those things, I was kind of like, I would do it for, let's say, a year or two. And I was like, I just feel like I'm kind of like beating a dead horse. And so it got to this point where I was like asking myself, what do I really love? And so I was talking to, I think it was McCall's dad and then just a few buddies of mine. And I kind of started realizing that it was like, it was either faith or fitness. Like those are the two things. I come from a heavy sports background. So like fitness has always been something that it's just kind of been like expected almost at first, but then I fell in love with. Faith, I mean, obviously, that's my everything, like, Jesus is everything, so it was like, "Okay, how could I do one of those 2 things?" But then I started thinking, I was like, "Well, I could marry the 2 and kinda start doing, my own thing, my own spinoff of, my own life," and obviously, McCall's got her thing going on, so I just started posting stuff, man, and really, like, trying to glorify God in the right way of doing it, and yeah, I mean, really just kinda just trying to put that platform to use and just show people that, like, I feel like the unfortunately, sometimes people look at Christians and, like, people of the faith as, like, "Oh, they only go to church, or they only do this, they only do that." Like, dude, it's so fun pursuing Jesus, and, like, you can incorporate that into every avenue of your life, and I think one of my favorite verses that really talks about that is Colossians 3:23, where God says, "Do everything as though you're serving the Lord and not human masters." And so I was kinda like, "You know what? I need to start doing that in my life." And so it's yeah, it's like on Instagram and, TikTok or whatever have you, but it's also in real life when, the camera's not going or anything like that, talking to my friends about stuff, fellowshipping a lot, talking to strangers about God and how he's changed my life. And one of the newest ones that I think I'm just not in a prideful way, but, like, I'm just so proud of who God is and how he moves is my mom. Like, my mom has started really, like, wanting to get to know Jesus and stuff, and so there's been this whole thing where I've been working with her a lot on stuff, and it's just been so cool to see how the Holy Spirit's been working on her heart too, so it's awesome, man. It really is all kinda like Jesus is the foundation, everything else just kinda follows.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible to hear, about your mom. That's oh,
Dude,
dude,
it's
that's
so awesome.
always, like, the goal is, right? When especially family members, you want them to be with you for
For
eternity,
sure.
but, I when I saw you started doing more of that lifestyle, content, I liked it because it seems very prevalent right now on social media that a lot of guys are doing, like, their day in the lives and daily content stuff. A lot
Mhm.
of it, though, is focused on, like, their work and, like, showing them putting in these 10, 12, 14
Yeah.
hour days, these 60, 70-hour work weeks, which was great, don't get me wrong, like, work is important, like, providing is important, but there's not a lot of at least stuff that I've seen, or at least is coming up on my, profile of, dads showing like what dad life is looking like as well, and like what they're doing when they're home, and incorporating their kids into stuff. And for me, I can see, these videos after videos of guys, doing their daily routines and doing their work and stuff. And then I've like seen 15 videos in a row, and it like I almost like have a little bit of anxiety a little bit because I'm like, dude, they're just like they're almost working too much for my brain to comprehend.
Am I not doing enough? What am I
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
wrong?
No, exactly. I'm like, I'm not doing enough. Like, should I be spending less time with my kid? Because I don't see where they're fitting in family time at
Yeah.
all. And so,
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing that because, I think, it's important for people to see people working hard and what that looks like too. But also, being a good dad is really important. Being famous in your own house is important. And so I think
Love
showing
that.
that content as well too, to be able to balance out what other people may be seeing, I would just say keep going with that.
Dude, yeah, and I love that, be famous in your own house, like, really, like, I think so many times guys will and maybe social media culture is a little bit of the problem there, but, like, so many people will kinda focus on, like, how can I talk about God online and do these different things. And that's, dude, that's incredible. Like, that is so awesome. But then, sometimes those could be the first guys that might not be introducing God into their own household or really teaching
Mm.
their kids about God. And I think I saw, maybe it was a clip from one of your other podcasts. Maybe it was the one with Cass, but it was like you guys talking about praying with your son every single night. And it's like, dude, that's so awesome. Like the fact that you pray with Brooks. Like we do the same thing with Miles every single night. Like, and we pray over him and pray for his future, pray for him to be, a man that leads others to God. And so it's like setting the foundation in your household is just, dude, it's the most important thing. And it's interesting because like I didn't really have that growing up. And so I've learned it in just so many different ways that God has just revealed himself throughout my life. But like McCall's family has been so good at that. And so it's just like learning that. But then like don't let that fall on deaf ears to your family. Like, you could bring that back to your family. Like, I'm talking to my mom about it and everything right now. So, like, it God doesn't always introduce that kind of stuff, to maybe that current generation. Like I was the second generation. Like I'm my dad's son, so now I can talk to my dad about it and everything. And it's never too far gone. Like you're never too far gone. You can always grow in your relationship and teach others about Jesus's love and his pursuit of us. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. The I Praying over Brooks at night is one of my favorite parts of my day, if not the favorite part of my day,
Yeah,
just because he looks forward to it so much, and it's just such a cool way to be able to just speak so highly over your child in front of God, in front of the creator of the universe, and
yeah,
it's one on one, and we're talking, and
yeah.
I'm just, like, speaking over his life and, believe in all the great things he's gonna do, and I really do believe that he's gonna do great things,
Oh,
for the
dude, for
kingdom and
sure.
individually and whatever he's gonna do and, because we don't know. So, yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of the day for sure, and, yeah, we do it every day. But I did wanna talk about, fatherhood in this episode. I'm very passionate about uplifting men.
Mhm,
I think fatherhood can be maybe a little forgotten about in today's culture, or maybe a little, not frowned upon, but maybe disregarded as the importance of it,
mhm,
when studies show, hopefully, having a father in the household, statistics show it's a huge improvement in, in grades, in, keeping, kids out of jail and prison and trouble in school and all that. Like having a father in the home is a big deal. But it's not just enough to have a father in the home, you gotta be a good dad. And so that's what I'm passionate about is uplifting men and encouraging them into, what God has called them to be and who God has called them to be, as men of God and as fathers. So, Take me back to when you first found out you were gonna be, a dad. What were those emotions like? And as the pregnancy went along, how did those develop, and did you do anything to prepare to become a dad?
Dude, I love that. Like, I every time that we know somebody that's having a kid, and we just had, 2 really great friends of ours that just had a son yesterday, actually. And it's like one of those things where dude, I forget who said it. I wanna say Tyson said it, but everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And it's like you go into it, you're like, "Dude, like, obviously, Christ is gonna be the center of this. He's been the center of our relationship. He's gonna be the center of our family." And, you want to incorporate that into your parenting and into every avenue of your life. And so, like, obviously, McCall and I felt like, "Oh, we're super prepared. We're ready to be parents. Like, we're ready to rock and roll." And I think dude, it's so funny. I think the first time I really realized I was like, "I'm a dad, like, this is crazy," was when Miles came out, and I was like, because it's like, dude, it's one of those things where and I think about it like this, and I think I said it to McCall like this at one point. It's like, okay, so God is there, like, at all times, but one day we're all gonna die, and one day you're gonna see his face, and you're gonna be like, "This is crazy." Like,
Mm.
this is totally different than, like, what I had expected. Like, I knew you were there, but now I'm actually, like, I'm coming face to face with you right now. And so it's like one of those things that's, the same thing with your kid. Like, they're just on the other side of, like, a fleshly little wall,
Right.
and they're there, and you're ready to see them. But then when you do see him for the first time, there's so much emotion, dude. Like, I remember when he came out and I was just, like, crying. I was like, "There's no way." Like, I love this dude so much already. Like, I just did not know what to do with myself, dude, and we were both so just, like, happy. I mean, she's out of it, like, I like, over the moon, but also a little out of it. So, dude, like, the preparation that was there was almost thrown out the window. Like, "You're ready, you're ready, you're ready," and then all of a sudden they're there and you're like, okay, well, at least we have a nursery and everything at home. Like, mentally, I am like, "What is going on?" Physically, we're ready to rock and roll, but dude, it was so, so much fun, like, just getting to introduce our dog to him and bring him home and get to show him his room and everything. It's just, dude, I will never forget that, and, like, even now, I mean, like, he's 2.5 now, but it's like that spark is, like, grown way stronger, and it's just I love that dude so much.
Yeah, the first did I mean, we're gonna have a second here later this year, so it'll be interesting to see how that
Yeah.
second birth compares to the first.
Yeah.
But yeah, that first moment is insane because we never had like, most of our friends, the majority of them had not been parents before, and so we were the
Mhm.
first ones, and so there wasn't much advice to be had from anywhere, so I didn't really know what to expect. Prepared a little bit, but at the same point, it was like I kinda understood, you're just kinda you're gonna figure it out when it happens.
Yep.
I did highly underestimate, the newborn stage and
Yeah,
effect it would have on me.
yeah.
So, I kinda had this similar experience at the hospital, like, "This is amazing," I was crying, like, "I'm a dad, this is beautiful." And then I got home, and I would say those first 6 weeks to, 8 really, were tough
Yep.
for both of us, as a household. Sometimes that's not everyone's experience. That was ours. What was your guys' experience like with the newborn stage?
Dude, so, like, when we brought him home, dude, like, honestly, and like you said, I think every baby's different, like, I don't know why God gave us a really good sleeper, but this man is an absolute sleeping factory, like, I don't understand how he does it. But I think the thing that, like, let's just say threw me off the most was so, like, obviously, I've said that, like, I love him so much and everything, but it was almost like this feeling of, like, a mental disconnect. Like, I almost felt, like, more disconnected from him than I thought I would, and that was, like, disappointing me and, like, making me ask myself just, like, these internal questions of, like, "Man, am I just, like, not doing a good job? Am I not, like, a good dad like I was, like, trying to be? Like, what is wrong with me?" And I think it's just one of those things that, it's just such a huge moment in your life where, like, you're learning how to adapt to a whole entire new human being because before, like, yeah, we're ready for Miles, but all my love is given to McCall. I'm pouring all my love into her. See, now it's one of those things where it's like, not that I'm pouring any less love into her, but I'm pouring like a newfound love into someone else. And so just trying to learn how to like harness that and kind of move forward and like be the dad that I know that Jesus, plans for me to be and who I want to be. It was definitely like a bit rocky for a little bit there. And I forget what age he was once I finally was like, "Oh, dude, like, we're on cruise control now," until he wakes up. He's like, "You know what? No, I'm gonna wake up at 1:43 in the morning, and then I'll wake up again at 3:43 in the morning." You're like, "Okay, this is fun."
Yeah.
But no, dude, I forget when that was, that all that kinda clicked, and I was like, "You know what? I'm being too hard on myself. Like, I'm gonna be fine. We're gonna, roll with the punches, and I know God's got me." I don't know when it happened, but that was a big struggle. And I've talked to a few of my buddies about it and like that have kids, and they've kind of had to say the same thing. And they're like, man, it's like almost like a little bit disappointing. And it really, I think it gets to guys sometimes because, and I think you said something about it, but it's like sometimes guys are expected to almost be like sole providers, let's just say. And I think for my scenario, it's definitely very different considering, and maybe you can speak on that too, but like considering Call and I get to both be at home a lot. So it's like putting even an added pressure on myself. Like I'm not going to a 9 to 5 or something like that. Like I really need to be, locked in as a father,
Mhm.
which I am. But I think it was just a learning curve, dude. And so I would say to like other dads that, are first time dads or are going through that, like, don't be so hard on yourself, man. Like really, you know, just pray about it, like meditate on God's word and on his face and just let, whatever his plan is come to fruition and just don't get in the way, man.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, especially, if you do have, which most babies are gonna be, looks like you got a superstar sleeper, but, the majority of them, you're gonna be more sleep deprived than you've ever been in your entire life, and as much as you think you know how to deal with that or that you would be able to deal with it, like, "Oh, I pulled all-nighters in college," or "I did this," it's like, no, dude, when you don't have sleep consistently, like, your brain becomes
Oh,
like, it goes to places you didn't even think was possible, and you're like, "I don't have
scared you.
all those thoughts." Yeah,
You're
that I'm capable of having, and then, as a guy, like, you don't have that baby growing inside you, so as much as you think you're gonna have that connection when they come out, you do at first, and then it kinda drops off a little bit
yeah.
because you do kinda feel a little bit useless in a way, like, "Oh, I can't do this for them, or I can't do this for them," and then you're trying to care for your wife who just had a traumatic thing happen to her, and so you do kinda get lost in the trying to do almost too much where you're not maybe doing you feel like you're not doing anything and you're like, you wanna do this huge problem. I forget who said it, but I heard it, if you keep trying if you're too worried about changing the world, like, you're not actually gonna do anything because you're
Yeah.
so out here with everything that you're thinking of, "Oh, I could be doing this, but though there's a problem over here, I should be doing this," and then you're just so sporadic, you don't end up doing anything. And so that was kinda me for a little bit is I just didn't know, where I really fit in the situation. I didn't know my
Mhm.
best way to go about it, and then the sleep deprivation was crazy, and I think, I've talked about this before, but, um, I think during those first 6 to 8 weeks, I realized how it's like selfish of a life I was living before
Oh, dude.
and how I could just do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted.
Mhm.
I didn't have a wife that was like super, no, you got to do this, 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 this,
Yeah.
this. Like she was like, she's chill. She lets me, do what I need as long as I'm communicating with her. And so, I went to the gym whenever I feel like I didn't like plan the day before, like, okay, I'm going to go at this time. I was like, whenever I felt enough energy during the next day, like that's what I would do, hang out with friends, sporadically and stuff. And that was a real game changer for me. It was like I thought that I had to completely stop doing any of those things that
Mhm.
like made me who I was before or what I enjoyed and got passionate out of. And so I kind of just lost myself in that first 6 to 8 weeks being like, oh, this is never ending. This is my life now. I'm never gonna be able to do anything again. And I think that's what I would say to dads in that like station of life right now is like there's just stages. There's stages of more freedom, there's stages of less freedom, there's stages where, you're not going to be sleeping, there's stages where you're going to be having plenty of sleep again. There's stages when the marriage is going to be a little bit tough during kids, and there's stages where it's going to be great. And so I think that's what I learned most during that newborn stage is that everything is a stage. There's going to be great things going along of each age and stage, and there's going to be things that are tough. And just to try to even enjoy the tough things. And so that's why I'm looking forward to this next one. Is I feel like I'm excited to get down and dirty with the long nights and
You're dying, literally.
yeah, just because it is so short, the time that you have, and knowing that, yeah, once again, my freedom's gonna probably, get lessened a little bit, during
Yep.
baby stages when they need me a little bit more, and that's okay because eventually it comes back, and then you're going and doing the activities that you love with your kids, and you're incorporating your family into it, and so that's just kind of what I felt, but I mean, it was a challenging, time in my life for sure. I didn't think, there's been times all throughout being a dad in different stages where I'm like, "Am I doing a good enough job?" The devil, the enemy is a thief, likes to, comes to kill and destroy, and so he's gonna put thoughts in your head of you're not adequate, like you're not a good enough dad, and
Yep.
there's days where it's very easy to take those in, and so that's kind of what I'm working on into the next one is really making sure that I'm confident in who I am and
Yeah.
in the husband and dad that I am, and being able to incorporate that into fatherhood. um, what was the hardest thing that you've dealt with as a father so far, or maybe the thing that you didn't expect to be the most challenging that ended up being challenging?
So, man, and I'll be honest, I don't really talk too much about this. I talk about it, with McCall a little bit, but I talk about it, with some of my close friends. But I'll talk about it with everybody that's about to watch this and with you. So, I did not have the greatest upbringing, and I did not have the greatest, let's say, fatherly role model. I love my dad. I do love my dad. I just, it was one of those things where he wasn't a great role model of what a man should be. And so, especially, like, as a Christian. So I think, man, learning all of that stuff and you talk about, like I had said, like, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's like, I've watched a lot of guys be great dads. I've watched, like, McCall's, granddad. He was a great father to his daughter, which is McCall's mom. I've watched McCall's dad be an awesome father to his 3 children. I've watched plenty of other dads be just awesome dads, but it's a little bit different in the profound impact that your own personal dad has on you
Mm.
is kinda like it's inescapable. Like, you almost are a little bit behind the 8 ball, so to say, if your dad doesn't kinda really teach you the ropes and really introduce you to God and raise you up to be a godly man. And so I think, like, for me, the biggest challenge was, like, learning how to be that without almost having that training, so to say. Like, having that, father that would be doing that for me and everything like that and teaching me. So, just learning that, dude, and honestly, I mean, it's all just been either reading, I could probably countless just Christian fatherhood books and different stuff like that. Reading one right now, talking to McCall's dad about things, just watching other, Christian dads that I know, how they parent and everything like that, like before McCall and I had Miles, and just praying a lot about it, reading about, the different dads and the way that they operated within the Bible and everything. And like, the parable of the prodigal son, like just seeing how that father reacted to his younger son coming home and all that, like having that heart at all times. But learning that is just, I feel like, you know, I feel like I'll never stop learning that, but I feel like most dads could probably say the same thing, just constantly like learning, like in learning the heart of the father. I mean, like God is he identifies, like, obviously as the father, so it's like there's something so powerful to a father's love that, like you said, like, you have so many kids that once in single parent households, and this is absolutely by no way meant to bring any moms or women down. I think that moms and women are amazing and awesome and do so many different things that dads could never do. But when you look at it, there's just so many times kids fall into so many bad things when it's a fatherless household. And so I'm not saying that it's not the same way with like a motherless household, but it is that way very strongly in a fatherless household. So like just learning how to be a present dad, like spiritually present, mentally present, physically present in all those different ways. And like I said, present it all the time because it's like I said, not I'm not going to an office at a 9 to 5.
Mm,
So what does that look like? Oh, bringing Miles in the gym with me every morning and just kind of try to show him like what physical hard work looks like. Or reading a devotion, at breakfast with him and McCall and kind of showing him what, maybe a little bit of spiritual sweat looks like. And just doing all these things, talking to McCall, telling her she's beautiful, kissing her in front of Miles and stuff, showing, my wife affection so that he can bring that to his wife one day and show his children that. And then it becomes a generational thing. So it really is setting up, your future generations for success by introducing your own children to the heart of God. So I think saying all that to say the biggest thing for me was like learning how to go from, not having a bike at all, let's say, to learning how to ride with training wheels. And now we're taking the training wheels off and we're riding with just two wheels and kind of like learning how to get there and just get better and better every day, dude. I think that, like you said earlier, baby steps and staying consistent with those baby steps. Like, God's not expecting you to be, who he has you ending up to be one day overnight. It's
right.
it's a constant molding. And I think that, every Christian knows that and every Christian can speak to that. Like he's constantly molding us to be more, like his son. And we're never going to be perfect, but we can keep pursuing him and keep pursuing that relationship and bringing that home to our own family. And then, man, that's going to bless, all the generations after that for your own family. So that's that's my own thing, man. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for a lot of guys. Luckily, I had a great dad, and I don't think I realized how uncommon it was to have two parents that stay together and love each other and were good examples. I didn't really understand that too much until I went into college. How uncommon that was. But I do think that's a lot of guys' worry when they become a dad is just frankly, a lot of dads, I don't know if it's generation to generation, but I will say like specifically in the previous generation where, of the age of where their kids are now becoming dads, like there was just a lot of bad dads and there was a lot of dads that weren't present. There was a lot of dads that were bad examples. And so I think that's what worries a lot of guys right now is, I didn't have a good example. Where do I go? And so I kind of like what you're talking about of maybe you didn't know what it was, but you know what you want Miles to be, right? And so I
Mhm.
think that's a good way to look at it, right? Is that our kids are so they're sponges. They literally copy everything we do. They're wanting to see what we do. And so instead of worrying as a dad of, okay, here's what I didn't have, so I don't know what to do, I changed that picture into, okay, I may not know what to do, but I have an idea of what I want my son to be or who I want my daughter to be, and I'm going to backtrack and go, okay, so if that's who I want them to be, what kind of actions do they need to see from me to be able to achieve those things and then go in that direction. So I really like the way you did that because I think it's a good way of action instead of just kind of pouting and you could throw a pity party of oh I didn't have this I didn't have that and then that becomes the cycle where you see in a lot of families of just bad parent after bad parent. It's important to be able to be like, okay, let's stop the cycle right here.
Yeah.
This is what I want my child. This is what I want my generation after. Because dude, in 200 years, no one's gonna know who either of us are. No
Nope.
one's gonna know how
Yep.
much money we made.
Yep.
No one's gonna know what cars we drove. No one's gonna know what sports we played
Yep.
or how fast we ran, how much we lifted. But what they'll see is our generational impacts, either good or bad, because either way, they're gonna be there.
Yep.
Either way, as we're having our offspring and our kids have kids and their kids have kids, those generational, impacts will be had, and they're gonna be either good or bad. And so that's what I think about all the time is, I get so caught in, sometimes finances or what do we have or what are we doing? What is my purpose? Like, who am I? Like, what do I do? In 200 years, no one on this earth right now, if Jesus hasn't came yet and the earth is still as it is,
Yep.
no one's gonna know who I am.
Nope.
But the impacts of my children and my children's children and my children's children's children will be there. And so that's what I feel like is so purposeful in this life is when you can truly forget about the here and now of what you think matters because it doesn't, and imprinting that into, no, I wanna see generation after generation after generation of people with my last name doing the right things
Yeah.
and being with them for eternity and them making a difference, not even just in the church, but I wanna see my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren have great jobs and have great relationships and have great friendships and be making a great impact, not only just, in their relationships with God, which is great, but also, I wanna see them having success too and doing all those things, and so I think that's what I think about all the time is when I can get stuck in that mindset of am I doing enough or do I have enough or whatever is, no. Maybe today, what's the best thing I can do to be a really good example of a dad and of a husband to my son? And those are creating generational waves that I may
Yeah.
not see right now. I may never see in my lifetime. But I think about someone like Forrest Frank right now. This dude is changing millions of souls. Like, legit, he's impacting
Dude, and
so many
music.
people.
Dude, music too. I mean, like,
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
and I don't know the exact story, but, I feel like I remember maybe his grandparent being a really big impact in, like, saving the family,
Yeah.
into that relationship with God, and so I don't know the exact story, so I'm not gonna pretend that I do, but let's say that is the case, like, that grandpa making that decision just impacted millions of people, not necessarily from him, but from the generations to come, and so that's kinda what I think about when maybe get down a little bit or maybe not think I'm doing a good job is, at the end of the day, in 250 years, no one's gonna know who I am, but my generation's legacy will be felt, so I wanna make sure it's good?
Dude, I had a McCall and I wanna say it was down here, but, we were listening to a sermon at one point, and we were at church, but we were listening to the sermon, and the pastor said the only legacy you have is Jesus. And it's like, man, that's, like, the truest thing ever. Like you just said, like, we're gonna fade to nothing in about 200, probably less if we're being honest. Like, man, if I don't know if I'll be remembered in 100 years, let alone 200 years. So, like, I mean, I'm gonna fade to nothing, but like you said, man, like, if Miles knows Jesus in his heart and he has a relationship with him, and then he takes that same, feeling and that same relationship and he brings that to his children, boy, girl, doesn't matter. And then that child brings it to the next generation and the next generation and so on and so forth. It's like, that's dude, like that's the only thing I could ask for. Like, is just that my family knows Jesus, and that's who they trust their life with. So I think that's great. The other thing I was gonna say, and I keep on wanting to say it, and I'm gonna say it before I forget it. But so, like, I think so many people say, like, "How can I be a good dad?" And I think that the Bible tells us pretty plainly that, Jesus says there are none good but God. So it's like, okay, well, not gonna be able to be a good dad without God. So it's like you gotta, that is the starting point. Like, you have to have that relationship with Him, and then bringing that into your own fatherly, parenting, however that might look. Like bringing that to your child, that's the only way you can be a good dad, man, because other than that, your flesh is gonna eat you alive and, you're gonna get frustrated at something and then you're gonna wanna yell or you're gonna, like you said, like, just kinda go pout and be like, "Oh, boohoo." It's like, but dude, like, if you really trust God and in your heart, like, "All right, this is a little bit stressful, but I know that He's got me, like, I'm gonna let the fruits of the spirit shine through right here and not my own flesh, then we got this, like, you can do it." So I
Yeah.
think that's super important, man.
Pray that every night with Brooks. I was like, "We pray that mommy and daddy have the fruits of the spirit," I need it more than most, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think
You and I
I
both, man.
the best way to be a good dad, is a lot of, learning, constant learning, a lot of repentance, saying you're sorry and learning from it, and then, just walking in joy and that.
Believe it, we saw it.
Changing gears a little bit,
Yeah.
a lot of a lot of fatherhood revolves around finances,
Mhm.
right? Making of money, spending of money, um, how much money to spend on the kids, stuff like that. How has finances changed? How the way you thought about finances changed since becoming a dad?
I definitely think I would say with Miles, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way. Okay. With what, McCall has been doing for so long, a lot of, different larger ticket items, let's just call them, have been things that she's been able to collaborate and do brand deals with, whatever that might be, like a crib or a dresser or something like that. So, like, being able to save money in that regard has been really nice, but thinking about, like, the future, like, oh, if, we have a daughter, then obviously, we're paying for her wedding, or, if we have to help out with Miles' wedding, then we'll have to help out with Miles' wedding. If they wanna go to college, then we have to have money set aside for that. I think a lot of the and I wouldn't even call it pressure, but just, like, the thought of, like, the future is just the thing that we have to think about more and the thing that I think about more, let's say. And so it's like, keeping that in the back of my mind, like, okay, investing, X amount of dollars to liquid account or retirement account or whatever it might be. Just getting prepared for the future. I mean, also trusting, that whatever we're gonna do down the road, God's got us. Like, we're not
Mm,
gonna sit here and dwell on dollars and count cents and, again, we're not serving 2 masters, we're serving God. So it's like, just kinda trusting him with that. It's, sometimes it is easier said than done, but just kind of thinking about the future, and I think just being prepared. And, yeah, I mean, that's really it. Because like, right now, it's one of those things where he has, what he needs and whatever that might be, but, like, learning how to potty train so we're not buying diapers anymore, like, saving on the little things, like, big boy undies only and not worried about that, but I would say that it's mostly stuff that would be how it's 2.5, so I guess 15 plus years down the road, but yeah, dude, I don't know, it's one of those things that I don't think a whole lot about right at this current moment, but I do think about the future.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think what I've learned is balance is key.
For sure.
I didn't grow up like, my dad was in ministry and in education.
Mhm.
My parents, looking back now, they sacrificed so much just to make sure that we never felt like really any different. I didn't really know like what they were making, because they never made that we would never had a summer where we didn't get to go see family and have a trip, or we never felt out of place. And then I come to find out as an adult some of the monthly stipends they were getting in the ministry, and I was like, how do you guys do that? They weren't they weren't having their daily coffee, Starbucks run and stuff. Like, they made those choices for
Yeah.
us. I'm so appreciative of that now. And so I think before, maybe when I was in college and stuff, it was like, okay, I want to get to this dollar amount. I want to have this car. I want to have this. I want to live at the country club. I want to do this, 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 and then I'll be set. And then I want to stack this for retirement. And I want to do this, this, this. And I really think one of the best things that's happened to me through fatherhood is realizing there's a balance to it. And there's nothing wrong with saving for retirement. There's nothing wrong with working hard to make sure, um, you know, kids' weddings are paid for, and, all this stuff. But to make sure that it's a full balance, right? Because I don't want to live a life now where I'm penny pitching every single moment so that I can save for when I'm 65. Because who
Yeah.
knows if I'm going to be here when I'm
And then your
65.
kids aren't even there anymore.
Kids are gone, and they hate me because I didn't buy them a cheeseburger when they were hungry after
Yeah.
football. I made them go eat like, whatever we had at home. But also, like, not always saying yes to everything. So it's just finding the balance, like, where can I, okay, yeah, I'm gonna treat him today. I'm gonna do this to him today.
Yeah.
But then the next time he asks for it, I don't want him to be spoiled, because that's the other thing. It's like, I want to make sure he has what he needs, but I don't want to make sure that he's not, living a spoiled life either, where he comes into expecting everything just to be given to them. So it's a very fine line that I found, of just balance, making sure we're saving enough for retirement, but not too much where we're feeling like we're, pinched here and there, spoiling him enough where I'm trying to bless him and love on him, but also doing it in a way where he's not expecting it and he realizes it is a gift. And just making sure that, we're still being, very generous and doing all that. And so I think it's been such a one of the blessings of being of dad is learning the balance of what finances should look like as a family, and also just trusting, yeah, the provision of the Lord has always been there on my life, and to be able to just trust him in that department has been big. And so I don't know. I think it's such a heavy weight on a lot of dads, chess, and you can see it. And again, I brought up earlier just some of those videos that I was um, referencing of the long hours they're putting in, and um, I wonder how their kids sometimes will look at those hours worked
Yeah.
when they grow up. And yeah, their dad may have been able to give them a good lifestyle financially, but did they ever really get a chance to know their dad? So I wonder if, an 80-hour week to a 50-hour week, maybe that money difference would be worth just being.
That harm, yeah, totally to your kid, though.
Yeah, I saw a video, and I mean, there's no hate to this guy, but he was making a video series of, and maybe he was doing it to be able to eventually make money on social media to be at home. So there's no hate there, but it just made me a little sad a little bit. He was talking about how after his 9 to 5, he was going out and doing sub or not sub jobs, but a side gig from 5 to 10 every day of the work week to make more money. And so then I was thinking, I was like, so you're only seeing your kids on the weekend. Like
Yeah,
that's just not that's just not present enough for what especially a young kid needs. And so it's
yeah.
like whether that's maybe lifestyle choices that need to be changed and altered a little bit, live a little bit more within the means to not be able to have to do that. It's just I don't know. And everybody's situation is different, but man, there's just nothing like again being famous at home and finding ways to be around as much as possible because I don't think provision is just about money. um, you know, time is so important.
Dude, it's the most valuable currency. It's the only one who can't get back, man.
Yeah.
It's like, you gotta use it the right way. I like that you were talking about that. Um, I totally forgot what I was about to say, but I was gonna say something cool, but I forgot. I
Well,
was gonna say something
you see
about
some of
several.
those guys on social media say that um, you know, like screw the Lamborghini. Like true
Yeah,
wealth is like doing this at 11 a.m. and they're like doing chalk with their toddler like on the
yeah.
sidewalk, and it's like, yeah, dude, like that's
Dude,
the ability to
there's
be able to
nothing
put
like
that.
just sitting down, no phone in sight, no, like, TV, like, McCall or not McCall, Miles and I, we were playing, hopscotch the other day because I took him for a walk around our neighborhood, and he saw it, and he was like he always does this thing where he's like, "What is this?" And so he looks at it, and he goes, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, dude, that's hopscotch." I was like, "You have plenty of chalk." So, like, right when we came home, I think maybe it was the next day, I set up this, like, huge hopscotch thing, and he just dude, he loved it, and so it's like seeing, like, just the simple things, like, that your kid loves and he's seeing or she's seeing for the first time and just getting to enjoy, and then you get to kinda, like, relive that moment, that childhood moment. There's no amount of money that could, like, buy that or bring that back. It's like no Lamborghini is, at least for me, no Lamborghini is valuable enough for me to wanna, like, miss out on that. And I remember what I was gonna say. So I saw this I forget if it was a study that I had heard on another podcast or if it was a study that I had read, but it's just such an interesting dynamic because you have so many, let's say the standard household in the United States has the father working, pretty crazy hours normally, let's just say, or like a standard 9 to 5, but they're doing a lot of work. They're away from the family a lot. So it was interesting because it showed that the mother is at home most of the time, the father is doing all this work. Well, once they hit about 40, like something switches, like at least in the father's brain, where he's like, I missed all these years of like my kids growing up. Like my kids are, let's say 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. It's like I missed out on, some of the best years of their life, those like childhood years where they're just so moldable, like we've been talking about, and they're just sponges. And you can teach them so many different things. They can pick up on sports, they can pick up on faith, they can pick up on like just so many different things that are just these intangibles that they'll be able to take throughout the rest of their life. So it's like just helping them learn that at that age and almost like our generation maybe or even the next generation like nipping that in the bud and just being more present fathers is just so important, man, because there really is no amount of money that can change that. And the setup that you give your kid for the future is more valuable than, whatever
Mhm.
trust they could be a part of or whatever like amount of money that they could have set aside. It's like having a spirit-led father and a family that's serving Christ and getting to experience that as a kid in a household. That's just like, dude, it's so valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I would just speak to every man, every dad. It's like, just call them to when they're thinking about being providers, that it is so much more than just money, and the importance of not living with that regret when they're that age, right? Because I could see that happening all the time. How many times are they trying to, reconnect with their kids when their kids are in college or young adults, and they're having kids now, and they're wanting to be grandpa, and it's like, dude, I never knew you as dad. I
Dude,
never knew you as dad. And then they go, but I gave you all these things. And it's like, that's not what I was asking for.
no, I asked for your
Not what
heart
I was
beyond all
asking
the
for.
items. I want your heart. That's
Yeah.
and I think that's dude, that's so fascinating because that's all God asks of us. And, like, I've always been, like I said, I'm on this continuous journey of just trying to get to know him better. But, like, when you really just, like he's, infinitely complex, but he gives us such a simple plan. And when you look at things, that he does and the way that, he's orchestrated the family or like just our life in general, like he always wants us to give our full, heart and all of our love to whatever we've got going on. And so like if that's our family, if that's our relationship with him, like both of those things are just so important. If that's, pouring out and being generous for others, whether that's, with your time and, serving, let's just say, like at a soup kitchen on Thanksgiving or Christmas or something like that. Just always loving your neighbor, always loving your family, always, serving God and loving God with all, your mind, your strength, and your soul. I think that that's just like the main thing, and really the only thing to me that matters.
Yeah, dude, I love it. Moving on to another thing I want to talk about. I've found one of my favorite things that I've really learned and developed so far being a dad, coming up on 3 years now, is the importance of routine and structure. I thought, it'd be cool, or that's just how we be parents is, we'll be like loose and chill with it and like vibe with whatever he goes. And I quickly realized that at least my kid does not vibe well with that, and he needs structure, he needs routine. But how well he picks up routine, how well he picks up structure, and how effective that is into molding the certain habits and the certain values that I want him to have. I was at home the other day, and I had some free time on a Thursday, and I got all my yard work done. And to the point where normally I do my yard work on Saturday,
Mhm.
and then I'm able to go do anything free that we wanted to do as a family on Saturday, and I feel fine about it because I got my yard work done. And it comes Saturday morning, and I don't have any yard work to do. And for the rest of the day, I struggled to like release myself to like go have fun and go do family stuff because I didn't like do my yard work to begin Saturday. And
Yep.
it like ruined my day, like low key ruined my day. And I was thinking about it later that night. I was like, why did that affect me so much that I didn't get to do my yard work at the beginning on Saturday? And I realized growing up, we always did yard work on Saturday at the house before going out to play with our friends, before go doing our sports, before doing whatever. And it was great. Like that was how we help serve our parents, help serve our house. You take care of the things that God has given to you. And it was a great thing. But I realized that routine was so imprinted in my brain that I was like, I gotta get my yard work done on Saturday morning for me to enjoy the rest of my Saturday, and that's just how it is. So sometimes if I have a little bit of extra time on my Thursday, I make sure to leave some of my stuff for Saturday morning because it's gonna throw off my whole routine. So that's just kind of showed me, how important routine and structure is because even as a kid, I wasn't realizing what it was doing, but as an adult now, to enjoy my free time, I got to put in some work in the beginning of the day, and that's just kind of just
For
how
sure.
my brain is structured now. And so I try to show that to Brooks. We do this thing called earning our donuts, and so we always either a Saturday or Sunday, he'll get to get a donut, and so that will be his treat for the week. But we got to earn it, so we go for a run first, and
I love
it's
that.
become such a fun thing because not only is it teaching him the importance of physical fitness and getting outside and active and stuff, but also that not everything just should be given. And if he wants a donut, if he wants that treat, we got to go earn it. We got to go sweat.
Burn some
He could thirst
calories
for yeah, we
first.
gotta burn some calories to make sure that our body can handle it, but, he loves it, I love it, and so that's just a routine that we're putting in. We're gonna get our weekly donut, and that's okay, we're not gonna be, nothing, you can't have a donut, but we're gonna go earn it first. And so what do you think about routine and structure? What have you learned about it differently since being, parents, and what are some routines or structures that you've put in place that, you've seen to be successful?
Dude, I think that I think that we're very similar, in that style of like, yeah, we're gonna be some cool parents. We're gonna be way cooler than our parents. We're gonna just be like the most chill, down to earth parents. But it is one of those things where I think it's just all humans, dude. All humans crave like a routine or
Mm,
just a sense of structure. I think that, obviously like looking at children, but even look at a lot of just like grown men, like there's so many guys out there that post, whether they are, I would say most of the time that you see them like on social media, they're probably just like a single dude or a dude that's, just dating a girl or something like that. But I'll wake up at 6 a.m. I do this. At 7 a.m. I go run it. At 8 a.m. I'm working out. At 9 a.m. I'm eating, whatever. It's like, yeah, but like what happens if a wrench gets thrown in there to like just completely
what
alter that?
happens if your kid wakes up at 6 a.m.? Like,
Exactly.
that's gonna
Dude, exactly. And so for me, I think that's maybe something that you learn as you get older, but, like, for me especially, like, I'll try to wake up at 7, every day because Miles sleeps pretty good, so he'll sleep a little longer than that, so, like, I'll normally try to knock out a workout, but, there are days that all of a sudden, I normally basically always let McCall sleep just kinda later, so I'm just like, I'm fine. I'm a morning person at heart, and she's totally a night person. But so I'll wake up, I'll be up already, so I'll let Miles come hang out with me in the garage. But like learning that, it's like I could be selfish and be like, "Oh, can you get up? Like I need to focus on, my pull-ups or I need to focus on, whatever." But it's like I think McCall and I had talked about it and she said something great one time, but it's like they don't want to they just wanna be included. Like, they don't wanna just be, like, set aside and set off and be like, "Okay, hold on, like, I'll come right back to you." Like, he's actually interested in what I'm doing. And, like, you're out of your mind if I'm not gonna capitalize on that now because there will come a day where he won't be very interested in what I'm doing. And so it's like, maybe grabbing their attention now and hanging out with them, like, showing them, "Oh, yeah, this is what daddy does in the gym. This is, why we work hard and everything." And so it's like teaching him that now as he's doing it, and nowadays, he'll, like, come in there and he'll, like, jump up on the bars and he'll be like, "Look, daddy, pull up." And I'm like, "Dude, you're killing it. Like, you're better than I am." But just, like, teaching them that structure and everything and, whether that's with routine-based stuff, whether that's going for a nap at the same time, if you can. Now, like, dude, I get it. I'm a parent. Like, there are days where you're like, lunch is running a little late or, brunch is running a little late. So we're in traffic. It's gonna be a little later nap. But just trying to stick to that same regimen so that they have that, like routine ingrained in their head where they're just like, okay, I have structure. Like they have something to fall back on. Going to
Mm,
sleep, at roughly the same time every night. Brushing their teeth, whether that's like every night it's kind of the same routine for us. We will give him a bath, we'll brush teeth, we'll get in, like his little tent that's in his room or in his big boy bed, we'll read books, we'll pray for him, and then bed. And like, you know, maybe right now he's having like a harder time where he's like, nah, I kind of want to sleep in mommy and daddy's bed. And I'm like, okay, well, we're killing the routine, but okay, we'll do this temporarily, but kind of just, keeping with that same routine, like where they know, oh, I'm getting a bath. I'm starting to wind down. I'm reading books, like kind of winding them down. They know, okay, bedtime's coming, like I'm good. So just I think that that's really important because then like you said, it teaches them good habits down the road, like maybe one day we start incorporating, making your bed every morning and stuff. And it teaches them good habits that they can take to their own family,
mm.
however many years that'll be down the road. So I do think that man, structure, discipline, and just having the same routine is almost like just so key to them feeling stable in the household.
Yeah, 'cause I think I originally thought, like, oh, to be, like, a good parent or be the cool parent, like, not having too much structure, not having too much, routine and being flexible, but I realized, like, I'm actually way cooler when we're having structure because I'm implementing these things and I see how much of a sponge he is. And I read a great book. His name's Justin Early, I want to believe, but it's all about Christian family routines and habits and how important they are to just the development of the child and how being even especially as if you're a family that chases after God, how your habits should be different because of that. And not that God loves us any different based on our habits, but because we love God, our habits should be different. And kind of how we talked about changing generation after generation after we're gone, those habits and those routines, when we implement them, that's what helps change that, right? Because, how I didn't realize like, oh, like why do I need to make sure I work hard before, doing these things? Well, that was implemented. Like work hard and then you get to play. And so that's something I didn't even realize was implemented in my brain. And so making sure that, we're doing routines of finding out, what are the things that we find important? What are the things of Brooks that we want to make sure that we are sending him off to college in 19 years, or well, way less now because almost 3. It's going by way too quick. But what are the things that we value? And then how can we create routine and structure around that where he learns that by watching instead of us just saying it. And so that's why I think is huge. And we're not just making him do it, but we're doing it as a family. And so I think that's one of the best ways as a dad that you can really also incorporate your hobbies and your things that you love to do is structuring it together and routine around together. So do I wanna go play every round of golf I play, with Brooks in the golf cart? No, absolutely not. That kid's a savage, and he, at this point, does not belong on a lot of golf courses. But some golf courses, I absolutely take him because there's not as much rules, and he gets to spend time with dad and see it's something that I love doing, and he's getting really dang good at it so far, which is crazy at his age. And so it's just creating, this is what we do. Like
Yeah.
me and dad, like when we're spending time together, we're gonna go to the golf course. And so, I mean, I can see in the future of, me and him and his kids, and we're playing golf together when I'm old and gray. And it's like, that's going to be a way that I'm showing him routine and structure of, okay, this is a great game that we're going to do that we love as a family to spend time together. And it's not just, oh, that's only dad's thing. That's where he goes and hangs out with his friends only, and I'm not allowed, and make him resent it. No, there's times to go with my friends to do that. But now, more important, it's not of how good can I get and, how much time away can I spend, but how can I involve him? How can I involve, our future kids, to do things that we love to do, that are good. So I think that's important. We're going to do some rapid fire because we're coming, a little.
Let me say something to that. I
Yeah,
want to
go
think
for it. Go for it.
because I think that what you said was fantastic when you said, like, with the family, and that kinda stuck out to me because I think a lot of times I think as a guy, it's one of those things where you're like, we're kinda like wild animals, so to say, like, to a degree. Like, we just wanna do, like sometimes we just wanna go crazy and do, whatever we wanna do, whether that's something that's, like, a more controlled thing, like play a sport or just go do stupid stuff. But, like, incorporating your children into these things, like, allowing them into your life,
Mm,
because I think that a lot of times dads specifically, moms are way better at it than dads. Like, we will block kids off and be like,
mm,
like, I need this." And yeah, sure, there are times where, like, that's totally appropriate and you can go do things with your friends and have the guy time. But if it's something like, let's say, like, where we live, we'll go fishing every now and then. Dude, if I'm not bringing Miles fishing, what am I doing? Like,
mm,
I should be bringing him fishing. He loves to, like, learn and to see that and to pull up fish and everything like that. Like, and that's just such a good, like, quiet time where we get to hang out as a family. He gets to, like, feel, "Oh, I'm fishing. Like, I'm feeling fulfilled because I'm doing this. Like, me and dad are doing this together. Me and mom are doing this together. Like, we actually are doing this, and I'm not just, like, sitting here spectating or, oh, I'm too little. I have to sit at home." And, like, I feel like that just raises their confidence so much, and it just helps them so much just going forward, learn, like, "You know what? Oh, if dad says no to this, that's okay because I'll be able to go, do X, Y, and Z with my parents instead. It's not like I'm getting blocked out of everything." I think when you have a child that's and I'm speaking on this obviously with literally one kid. So I'm just speaking off the dome here, but I think that when you have a kid that kind of is like having a hard time, with not being allowed to go do certain things, maybe look introspectively at yourself and be like, am I allowing them to be able to hang out and participate in enough stuff that they don't feel like they're just getting blocked from everything?
right.
Because if they're getting blocked from everything, then dude, I'll freak out if I'm not being able to go do things. Like, look in the mirror. You're not gonna wanna just sit on your hands all the time. So, I think kids wanna be, as involved, if not more involved than we are in certain things. So, I think just kinda learning how to balance that and to kinda just be like, "Hey, why don't we all go do this instead of just dad? Or why don't we all go do this instead of just mom?" And so learning how to do that is huge. And I think that since we've started doing that, especially with Miles, he's kind of learned to respect, our time even more than I think he did before. So I think that that's a really big thing that I think a lot of people sometimes will miss, but it's one of those things that I think you'll learn on your own, but it's almost better to know going into it.
Yep, 100%, and it's something too where it's like you realize, how important, um, that is. And what we've done is a lot of times we still understand the importance of, okay, it is a lot sometimes to be a parent. There are times of the week where you need to go do something by yourself, or you know you need to go do something with a friend, a couple of friends, whatever. But while the other person is taking care of the family when they're out doing it, we're doing a different activity with the kids, you know, with Brooks. And so being able to do that as well is huge, and not being like, okay, mom's getting coffee with her friends. I could just sit here and scroll my phone while you're watching TV. But instead, you know what? We're gonna go fishing, or we're gonna go to the driving range,
Yeah.
or we're gonna go do our donut run. So not feeling like, okay, I can never have alone time because that's important too. But also, when you do also have that one-on-one time with your kids specifically, you should also be doing those activities that you enjoy doing alone, because you know, there's that Luke Combs song where he's like, I think it's like "Hunting by Yourself" or something, where he's like, you know, he's hunting with his kid, and he's too loud, and he's scaring off all the animals, and you know, this and that, won't stop talking. Which I think he might have wrote that song about my son. But you know, then 20 years from now, all you would want in the world is to be hunting with your boy, and he's
Yep,
gone, and he's
I
out
know.
doing the stuff, and it's just how the world works, and it's like, I have to remind myself of that sometimes, is like, you know, it's not always convenient to bring your kid somewhere or to be doing something with them, but I know in 25 years, I'm gonna be wishing I was back here, and so it's such an important, you know, mindset to go back to.
Dude, I think every, like, hard thing, let's say, like that, is a blessing in disguise, like you just said. I think that that's such a, such a great thing, like, Miles, if he's sitting up there, with me and if we're hunting, he's like, "Oh, look, a deer," and it's like
Mm,
the deer runs off. He's like,
yeah,
"Ah, okay, well, we'll get the next one," kinda thing, but, like, like you said, one day he'll be 18 and one day I'll be like, or let's say he's older, let's say he's, like, 26 and he has his own family, and I'm like, "I wish I heard that little voice, saying, 'Oh, look, a deer,' all over again," like, it's not as fun doing this, without it. So,
right.
dude, yeah, learning that all of those hardships are just blessings in disguise, and your future self, it's so funny. I always think about that scene in Interstellar where he's banging on like the outside of the thing. He's like, "No, no." But that's how I think about it. Like your future self's gonna look at your present self and be like, dude, like stop. Like just slow down, enjoy him or enjoy her. You've only got your kid for 18 years, let's say, and then they're going and doing their own thing. It's like you really gotta, relish those years. So it's
Yeah.
important, man.
100%. I caught myself early on in fatherhood, maybe, being like, "Okay, I'm looking forward to this stage," or "I'm looking forward to this stage because of this reason." And then, you know, you realize, you know, specifically 0 to 5, because they're in the house and they're not at school, how much of a percentage that is of the entirety time that you'll spend with that,
Mhm.
child. And so, you know, obviously every situation is different depending on, you know, where they live after graduating and how long you get to live at in whatever, but it's like, you know, roughly 90% of the time you'll ever spend personally with your child is between that 0 and
Yeah,
18, and how much even more of that percentage is 0 to 5. It's actually, like, disgusting when you think about it, and it will make
terrifying.
you never, like, wish away a day again,
Yeah.
and then you'll spend some night times, like, putting them down, you're like, well, that day I'll never get back. And then you get in a mind sweat. And so more not to get too much into it, but it is important to understand that, we it's very short and it goes by quick. You know, they say the days are long, but the years are fast, and we're 3 years into it. And the quickest 3 years of my life. So
So funny. My mom always used to tell me that the what is it? The years are short, but the days are long or whatever. Yeah, dude, my mom always used to tell me that. And it was like, yeah, that's cool, mom. And then now that I have my own kid, I'm like, oh goodness. Like she
yeah.
was not kidding. Like, how are you already gonna be two, you're already 2.5, you're gonna be three. I'm like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, now it's been this year was 10 years since I graduated high school, and I have no idea how it happened. Like 10
Bro,
years.
you both. I feel like an old
Yeah.
man. This
10
is
years
my
in
yeah,
the
we missed
house.
the 10-year reunion.
Yeah, felt like 100 years.
I
And
know.
like 10 years in childhood was like my entire life, and now I don't understand how it's been 10 years.
I'm like, am I really that old? We're gonna be pushing 30 here pretty soon. I'm like,
Yeah,
Gosh, dude, that's
the
not the right
fucking look
humor.
is not good, but I'm trying to make the most of it. Let's end it here with some rapid fire, okay?
Cool.
So, I know Miles isn't super old, but what was the hardest stage so far of, 0 to 2?
Hmm.
Hardest and then your favorite.
Favorite is right now, man. There's nothing that beats just like he literally like looked at me yesterday and he'll do this like because we'll do things like I guess dads are the donut guys because I'll take him for donuts too. Although we're gonna have to start incorporating a little bit of fitness into there for the reward. But
Apparently,
I'll take him until
I will say he runs for about 15% of the time, and the rest of it, he's in the jogging stroller, but,
yeah.
it's yeah, he loves it.
Maybe we'll have to do something. I was trying to teach him how to do push-ups. Maybe we'll learn some, like, little push-ups or something. But, dude, this stage, man, like, whenever, like, I bring him in the gym, like, I'll be doing something that's, strenuous, and I'm like, "Oh," and then he'll, like, walk up to me and be like, "Daddy, I love you. You're my best friend." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, like,
Yeah,
I would do anything for you, like, I love you so much, and it's just, like, having him be able to just talk about his feelings and like that, and, like, just, telling you, "Oh, man, I love you so much," and then he'll say, like, "Mommy, you're so pretty," and McCall, and I'm like, "Dude, this is such a cool, like, stage where he's just so, like"
yeah,
kinda like Sour Patch Kid a little bit because he'll have some things where I'm like,
yeah.
"Alright, hold on, pump the brakes there, bud." But then he's got these other things, like, he's just the sweetest dude in the world, and I'm like, "I love you so much." So this stage, dude, is so much fun. It's my favorite stage for sure. I'm trying to think about the hardest stage. I would say the most, like maybe the most, like, hard stage for us, and I shouldn't even call it a stage because it was only a few days, was like, him learning because we were, let's say, pretty late to the party about putting him in his own room, in his own crib, and when he started doing that, it was like, "No, like, this is not happening." And so we did the whole, like, fur method thing where, you let him cry out and everything, and dude,
Yep,
like,
it's tough.
oh, having to just, like, stand outside the door and he's just, like, screaming, crying, and I'm just like, "Man, I wanna, like, come hold you and help you."
Yeah,
But I know that that's just not the right thing to do. So and then, it's like, man, he just went to bed screaming, crying, dude. Like,
mhm,
he literally got so exhausted from crying so hard that he's asleep now. Like, that makes me wanna rip my heart out. Like, that just hurts so bad, dude. So that was hard. The other part, funny enough, that was hard was before we got, like, we have these little, like, internal childproof locks on our cabinets that are lower. But,
okay,
dude, when he was crawling before we had that, every time, every door is open, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, we need to do something about this because this is just not gonna happen over and over." So I think those 2 things, kinda simple, easy things, but those are the 2 things that were probably maybe the hardest.
yeah. Will be interesting as Miles gets a little bit older if, the Sour Patch comes a little bit more equal because Brooks is in the age now where, it's sour and then sweet, it's, "Dad, you're my best friend in the world, like, you're so strong, you're so good at this," and then I say something or I discipline him for something, he's like, "You're not my best friend anymore, Dad," and it's just like that's just like dude, his words hold just power,
Yeah.
like,
You don't realize
it's
you just did my emotion.
yeah. I was like, "You just ruined my day, man," but I gotta stay strong. But yeah, the toddler stage is the best just because you see them just experiencing these things, and they're able to explain why they're enjoying or disliking something. It's the best. Do you have a like, the biggest parenting fail that you can remember? I have mine you can't think of anything.
Let me hear yours first.
Okay.
Let me go into
This
thought
is
here.
this is bad. Thankful for nothing happened. We live in a neighborhood, like, in Florida with golf carts, and so we took the golf cart to the park. He was maybe freshly 2, so it was about a year ago, and, put him in the car seat and, buckled him in the car seat and drove home, and we get home, and, I never rebuckled the car seat back into the golf cart. So we drove the whole way home around a roundabout, and, I had never he was in the car seat, not actually in the golf cart, and I was
No
like,
way.
that was the biggest but, like, at this point, it's like, what can you do? It already happened, like, you just learn from it, never do it again, obviously. Now I'm, like, triple
Dude,
checking,
yeah,
quadruple checking every time I'm buckling him in there, but I'm like,
yeah.
that was the biggest fail. Thank God nothing happened, but also I learned from it, and now I'm, like, way OCD about checking a million times
I
a
was
day.
gonna say you probably became the biggest OCD person, y'all checking everything, bro.
100%. Yeah,
That's
100%.
hilarious.
It will never happen again, but that was a pretty big fail.
I think I'm trying to think, man. There's probably a bigger fail out there that I can't totally remember right now, but one of the biggest ones I remember was when he was learning how to walk. I was like helping him, do the like table surfing or whatever when they just kind of like move on the tables and everything like that, and they're learning. Well, I brought our laundry basket out, like for him to do it on, and like just foolishly, I didn't think, oh, the laundry basket's empty. It kind of weighs nothing. So he like picks himself up on there, gets up, and the second that he like picks himself up to like here, he like kind of pulled it a little bit and it just goes back and he smacked his head on the ground and he just started screaming and I was like, oh dude, I'm so
Mhm.
stupid. Like, why did I do that? And it's one of those where you're just like, man, I hate myself. I hate myself. I hate myself. But I'm like, like you can't beat yourself up. Like he's fallen so many times and stuff. But dude, yeah, that was not fun. Like to know that that cry was something I could have prevented. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang it, man.
Yeah, I take those hard too. It's like that anytime I make, like, a mistake like that, it's like my whole day, I'm, like, just, like, going through my brain. I'm like, "Dude."
Oh, dude, what could I have done? Even like the other day, he fell like McCall and I were cooking, and normally like he'll play because he's got like a little kitchen set up and stuff, and he'll play like with his kitchen stuff. Well, he just randomly decided to come back in the room, gets on the coffee table, and he just like, kind of like starts dancing and stuff, missteps, falls backwards, and like does like just this foot overhead thing, and immediately starts like screaming. And I'm like, dude, I feel like I could have prevented that. Like
Yeah.
I could have been Flash Gordon and caught him in like, point 0.1 seconds and been there. But yeah, I think that that's just something that dads will always blame themselves for. That, hey, it teaches him a lesson. Don't get up on the coffee table and start dancing when we're not looking, man.
At that age, sometimes it takes a couple times,
I know.
they normally do figure it out. What's one thing you hope your children remember about you?
Oh, man, I mean, the only thing that we've talked about, like Jesus. Like, I if that's all that I'm remembered for is that, "Oh, yeah, your great, great, great granddad introduced, Christ to, Granddad Miles," or something like
Mhm.
that, then, Granddad Miles introduced it to the next generation, so on. Like, if I'm only known for that, then I'm happy with that, man. Like, I don't care, if they're like, "Oh, yeah, he was a really cool dude. He was physically fit or something like that." I don't care about that. That's all, just total, I don't know, hoopla compared to getting all of my family to just continue to know and love and pursue Jesus.
I love it. What's your best dad hack?
Ooh. Hmm. Lately, like I said, dude, it's been letting him do like things with me. Because the more that you let them do, the less that they want to do that like they're not allowed to do.
Mm.
And I think that that's like maybe a little bit backwards thinking, but like if I'm like doing pull-ups, Miles is like, I want to do some pull-ups. And I'm like, sick, dude, let's go do some pull-ups. And I let him do some pull-ups and stuff. He'll go do pull-ups and then he'll go do other things in the garage. But if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go do pull-ups, and then he's like, I want to do pull-ups. And I'm like, nah, I got another set I gotta do right now.
Right.
And then he like starts wigging out. I'm like, okay, just let him do pull-ups, dude. Like take the time, give some grace. Like, not everything's about you. Like, let your kid do what they want to do for a second. Show them that they can do it and that they're capable. And then they'll be happy and they'll, go on doing their merry little thing, whatever that might be. He's got like a trampoline in the garage. So he would probably do some pull-ups and then go do the trampoline. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you're killing it. You're burning calories right now out here with me in the Florida heat. So
Earning that
yeah, I
dad
would
love.
say it's that, man. Right now, I'm so focused on this, like,
Yeah.
2-year-old stage, toddler stage. There's probably plenty of things that I did when Miles was, within his first year of life or that 1 to 2 range, but everything right now is, like, he's just becoming so much more like a human, and that's always so funny to say because obviously he's always been a human, but, like, he's really starting to be a person and come into his own person. So just I feel like that's all the stuff that my brain is kinda, like, rattling around right now.
No, it's good. Last thing, you know, there's a lot of struggling dads out there, with, could be a multitude of things. What's one piece of advice, obviously, that would be, generic or, it would be you don't know what specifically they're going through. What would be one piece of advice, just if you had to cover as much you could for a struggling dad? They're wanting to be a better dad. what's one piece of advice you give them?
I would say 2 things, because like I said earlier, the first thing I would say is take it easy on yourself, because so many dads put so much pressure on themselves to be, whatever in their mind they have set out to be. If that's just some like crazy high bar, if they're not meeting that, like I know for me personally, I'm a bit competitive in like the way that I am. And by a bit, I mean I'm very competitive. And I'm like, if I'm not that already, then I'm disappointed in myself. So
Yeah.
almost like taking a step back, being like, you know what, I'm not gonna be this guy like overnight. And I think, that approach works so well in different things, and like I said, I love what you said earlier with the baby steps, because consistent baby steps will always outperform just one huge effort, like, once a week. Like, if every single day you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this better tomorrow, and then I'm gonna do this better, and I'm gonna keep on making sure that I'm doing, everything else that I did before better." Like, keep doing these little things over and over, you're gonna start stacking all these baby steps, and you're gonna be like, "Dude, like, I am who I said I wanted to be." And so it's like, okay, now set, new goals and just keep on working towards that and refining yourself. And then, like I said earlier, God is the only one that's good. So kind of coming to him. And like something that I've done, I would say probably within the last 2 years is I feel like the, stereotypical like prayers, like closing your eyes and praying and stuff. But something that I've kind of started to do is almost like it says in the Bible, meditate on his word. And like I will literally like close my eyes and open my hands. And I will just like, I'll be by myself. I'll close my eyes and I'll just start like almost like picturing like my thought process of like what I think God, who he is and everything. And I'll just close my eyes. And obviously, I feel like for most people, that probably just looks like Jesus. So I'll just close my eyes and start picturing that and just being like, pouring out all of whatever I feel, like positive, negative about myself, like, and I'll just be bringing it to him. And dude, like, I literally did it this morning and I was like, let's say like a 7 just on like the wired scale. And I came down to like a 1. Like, and it just totally calms me down and just like refocuses me. I know who he calls me to be. And it's so funny because, while I'm doing it, there's these other little thoughts that are like, trying to get in that are like, no, you're not. No, you're this. That. And it's like, dude, that's obviously the devil. So just like out loud, I'll be like, I pray against these thoughts and, just like recentering yourself. So I think that, between those two things, giving yourself that time and giving God time because he can't, he's not going to refine you overnight either. It's going to be a arduous process to get to that point. But when you do, dude, it's going to be so, fulfilling and rewarding. But then also taking the time to kind of refocus and recenter yourself, whether that's every morning or whether that's when feel like you're like at your wit's end and just kind of doing that, or if it's at night, like just recentering yourself and getting ready. I like it in the morning because I feel like it prepares me for the rest of the day as a husband and as a father.
Mm.
But like whatever that might look like, I feel like those two things have completely changed the dynamic for fatherhood for me.
Yeah, love it, dude. I've realized that it's gotta be first thing in the morning for me. Maybe that doesn't work for everyone depending on your schedule. Bible before breakfast, I've learned is a real thing for me. And my
Boom.
day is completely different if it doesn't happen. And then I usually it's wake up early and Brooks wakes up pretty early, so that means I gotta learn how to wake up even earlier. And I read and I try to get a workout in because I'm a much better person after I've done those two things, much better dad. And so yeah, that's great advice. Jake, I appreciate where can people find you? What are you doing? Social media, what are you
I'm on Instagram. TikTok was something that was a new venture for me because it was like, yeah, if you're gonna do this, you might as well do it the right way. But no, it's Jake Gilbert on Instagram, which I just changed it, but it's 2 E's, and I'm actually ridiculous. I'm double checking that. Oh no, it's 2 I's. Jake Gilbert with 2 I's.
two
Yes,
eyes?
I guess Jake Gilbert normally was the normal way was taken, so I had to do the 2 I's in Gilbert. So that's my handle on Instagram and TikTok. That's about where I am. Not really on Twitter or anything like that. So that's where I am. If I could, I would love to leave y'all with 2 verses. 2
Love
2 of my favorite verses.
Gilmore.
My all-time favorite is James 1, 2 through 4. I'm a little bit lame. I'm reading it right now, so just bear with me. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So, I mean, like that just talks about it right there. Like it's you're gonna be tested. It's gonna take time. but if you really allow God to work in your life, he will refine you into the man that you are supposed to become. And in Psalm 127:1, it says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain." And I think that that's, I mean, like, especially for new fathers, and whether you're a new father or whether you're just a new husband, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Like, unless you are, in a Christ-centered relationship, or unless you are a Christ-centered leader in your household, you're laboring in vain. Like, you're not doing it for any reward. You're just kind of doing it, and knowing the way that, people are, everything is probably going to come tumbling down around you, but knowing the way that God is, he will uplift you, and he will lead you to the place that your family is supposed to be, and who you are supposed to be as a husband and as a father if you're laboring for him. So those are my two favorite verses, man. That James one especially, but I love that Psalms verse too.
Yeah, I mean, what are you building the house on? Is it the rock or is it the sand? 'Cause it's a big difference. Doesn't
Absolutely.
matter how nice the house is on the sand, like, it's
Absolutely.
covered down, but, yeah, guys, make sure to go give Jake a follow, even if anything, just to, get some fitness because the dude's absolutely shredded, and it's good stuff there, so,
Thanks,
Jake, again, happy early Father's Day to you, dude, you're killing it, appreciate you,
you
glad to
too.
call you a friend, and, yeah, we just appreciate you coming on.
Peace out, man. God bless, guys.
Yep. Thank you, Jake. And that was Jake Gilbert on Johnny Talks Pod. Blessing having him on. It was such a fun conversation. Just talking dad stuff. I'm just so passionate about fatherhood and just such a big believer in the power of a good dad, the power of strong men. And anytime I can come together with another guy and just kind of talk outwardly to as many men as possible, it's just about what it looks like to be a good father, or what we feel it looks like, and just our experiences. Men were out the best at sharing our experiences, or giving advice sometimes. And so I think just having conversations out there that are positive and that are shining a good light on fatherhood is something that I want to do as much as possible. So if you make it to this episode, farthest through this episode, we appreciate you having you. Fatherhood has just been such a blessing on me, and I know it is on some of the other guys as well. 3 years into it, and it's just such a blessing. Got another one on the way, as you can see here. Girl dad coming up in September, and I'm just super excited to add to the family. It's just such a blessing. Going to be super cool to be a girl dad as well now, and doing with that all that's going to come with it. I know it's going to be a big change, but I'm excited. That's going to do it for this episode of Johnny Talks. Appreciate you joining in after a few months off. I got some people I'm trying to work with to get on now. That's kind of what we're working on with the podcast right now. Occasionally it can be kind of hard to secure guests when it's not the biggest podcast in the world. So if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to be able to tune into future episodes, see more guests, the easiest way you can do that for me is hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and TikTok as well. Giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Doing all those things is going to help make the podcast a little bit bigger, make it a little bit easier to get guests. We can get conversations like this out there to you guys quicker, easier, and hopefully more common. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed your day. Happy early Father's Day. Go be a good dad. Go be a good man, and go serve Jesus. We'll see you next time. Peace.